the switching? Okay, on the agenda is Rita, little communication problems between South Dakota and Illinois. It's probably due to the Missouri River. South Dakota State, of course, or South Dakota is, of course, the southern stepchild of North Dakota, and is usually that black hole that you see on a map, surrounded by North Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, and Wyoming. The news media likes to prey on us by saying that Mount Rushmore is in North Dakota, just because of that black hole there. And historically, if this is going to work, maybe I need to do this.
There you go. It's working.
Okay, we'll have to play with it somehow. Historically, then almost everybody in this room, if you're driving I-90, you go through South Dakota, the next thing you realize you're through Sioux Falls, next thing you realize you're in Rapid City. That's because there's nothing in between those 4.5 hours driving time there, except the Missouri River and a very bad restaurant to eat. The collection's been around for a little over 100 years now. The college was founded in 1881. The first collection was put together in 1886 by Orcutt. We make a great claim to fame by, this is where John Aldrich, the famous dipterist, got his early education. After that, it was pretty much downhill for us. He went on to great fame, however. So we went through a lot of different curators of sorts for the up until 1906, which is when Harry Severn showed up. And his great quote is that there was no collection of insects at the college worthy of the name. One can parse the grammar there if he's referring to the collection of the insects, but there was really nothing there. So what we have started with Harry, and he basically collected all over the state. In his later years, he liked to go to Colorado for vacation, and of all places to the Yukon. And so, Chris, we have lots of leafhoppers from Colorado and the Yukon, as well as South Dakota. He was joined early on by George Gilbertson, and they basically collected together for a long time. Another NDSU connection, Ed Baldwin, was at SDSU first before moving to North Dakota, taking most of the Chrysomela collection with him. About that time, entomology, zoology, which was what was happening for ages and ages, just disappeared. That was politically dissolved, and entomology was shunted into plant sciences, where it's been ever since, and we've been dominated by agronomists and soils people, and now plant genomics people, and so the insect collection barely exists in the mind of most of the campus. Burris McDaniel was my predecessor. He took over from Ed, retired in 1990, moved to Arizona where he could be happy before he passed on. Collection was orphaned for several years, and then I was hired to sort of take over and clean up, and it's been a 19-year exercise in cleaning up the mess that non-entomologists left behind. And last year, Rita joined me as a graduate assistant and collections manager, and that was to a very high degree because of this grant, because of the invertnet project. So I'm nominally in charge. That means that I find the money and sign the papers so everybody else can have fun. Rita does do double duty then as the part-time collection manager and GRA, and Rita is sitting right over here, so if anybody doesn't know her, please meet her. Very nice young lady. And she has an affinity. She comes from Medellin, Colombia, and has a specialty interest in the Coletidae, especially in a couple of Canini, which are some really interesting bees, if I may say so myself. And I've got 3 other grad students that are required to work in association with the collection. Veronica Calles Torres from Bolivia, who's working on switchgrass predators, mostly an obscure little moth. and an even more obscure little midge, veterans feeding the switchgrass, David Drones, which is presently finishing up a native bee inventory in the Black Hills, and a new student, Laura Winkler, who's interested in ANSA reconstructed grasslands. Fortunately, all of them do have a little bit of a collection mentality, so even though they're hopefully, or thinking that they're working on things that will get them better jobs in taxonomy, they are contributing quite a bit. And then this year, thanks to the grant too, we've got a good passel of undergraduate students that are contributing a lot of work. Okay, the collection is approximately 1.2 million specimens. I'm going to run through this quickly because lunch is coming up and we still have to listen to Dan Young here. About 1.2 million specimens, most of which is pinned. The McDaniel slide collection of Sternorhyncha and mites, he took or sent to Texas A&M when he retired, and so we basically have just a lot of miscellaneous uncurated stuff right now. Very little attention has been given to those areas in recent years. Approximately 98% estimated of the collection is Nearctic material. We have little bits and pieces from the Solomon Islands from World War II and things like that from different places. My stuff from Costa Rica and Colombia and Bolivia and a few other places. About 56% of the collection, as was noted previously by others of you, is Lepidoptera, Orthoptera, Coleoptera, and Hemiptera in that order. And the Hemiptera is all three suborders together. The fastest growing units is the Hymenoptera, especially the Apiformes. David Drones, just from the Black Hills, in the last 2 summers has brought in approximately 20,000 new specimens, which includes a lot of new state records. South Dakota is one of these wonderlands in North America. The reason it's a black hole is because nobody stops to collect, and so we have lots of new state records to come up with, and we know how popular those are for publishing these days. Coleoptera comes in only because students bring them in to me, and I'm collecting them. So the focal areas that we're really interested in because the grad students insects of the Black Hills. Fish and Wildlife and other agencies have been giving me a little bit of money to focus on pollinators, so we're sort of generally looking at pollinator complexes in general. Fish and Wildlife Service is really interested in, for example, knowing what pollinators are doing as they go in and reconstruct grasslands and prairie communities, which is an arguable thing, but it provides money. And then there's the Archanorhyncha and the Orthoptera. Okay, for ages and ages and ages, we were up on the 3rd floor of Ag Hall in terms of the collection and an ever-decreasing availability of space. Last year, we used a lot of legislative appropriations and student tuition money to remodel parts of the building. The collection got moved down into a ground floor area. At least it's brand new, it's clean, it's got HVAC, climate control, gave us a little bit extra space, so we're up to about 800 square feet, which is good, and we now have in there about 100, we have 110 cabinets, a little more, about half of which are tolerably modern, and of course we buy from Topeka campus there, steel fixture cabinets there. But 57 of them are these old wooden and metal things that were made in the 30s and 40s, and they are absolutely not pest-proof. In some cases, they're not even dust-proof. The drawers inside have glass on the top and the bottom, in many cases. They don't seal. They're terrible things. It's also a terrible job trying to replace them slowly. We have, I'm sorry, questions?
I'll just say it's easy to digitize, Paul. You got glass on both?
That's right. Except what's on that bottom glass are these old fiberboard sheets that specimens are pinned into, and it's horrible stuff. But Arita actually went through and counted up that we have 2,128 drawer slots available to fill. We got rid of some old teaching collection stuff that had accumulated in there and actually gave us some space. This is the new processing area. This is sort of the work area that we have adjacent to the collections itself, so we can walk from the cabinets to this area. But we managed to get a hold of a couple of undergraduates that actually liked what they were doing. One has a computer affinity, so he's taken well to instructions on how to use Excel and Workbench, because we're moving things into Specify 6, so that's the plan. The collection was in such bad shape for so many decades that we were literally having to spend a lot of time replacing labels, unit trays, and drawers, trying to, well, get to the, so a lot of just plain updating the taxonomic units and terminology in the collection. But we have started to capture data on a specimen by specimen basis as we're working through these collections, and this has been increased by this by the invertnet grant. And the data imaging at this point is pre-project. This is mostly just my photography of labels and specimens of interesting things from the collection. And of course, we have the great dream of replacing all that cabinetry with a compactor, which I've tried twice already. Get lots of excuses as to why we're not worthy. Okay, just because we're in South Dakota and we don't have any permanent staff, minor details. Okay, so invertnet is doing wonderful things for us already. Of course, the standards were pretty low to start with, and that includes some of that data capture, developing the database. Rita's really been involved with that. She's developed this peculiar emotional bond with Specify 6, and so it's going to be on my level here, but she's really good at it, digitizing the stuff. With the remodeling of the room, the moving of the collection, and new management standards, which includes we don't allow IPM people into the room unless they're sterilized. So we've got an old domestic problem under control. We've got dust under control, all kinds of good stuff happening there. We're getting, actually an occasional visitor now comes by on I-29, so we're getting unsorted specimens identified, updating the nomenclature, and generally cleaning up the mess that was left by the remodeling, because the entire collection was put into static storage for about 9 months. I couldn't even get to most of it, because our physical plant people said, we're going to put it over here and we're going to protect it. Yeah, right. So we're sort of still cleaning up from that. Okay, so the cleaning reorganization, we're in the process of replacing drawers, unit trays, getting everything reorganized and identified. We've actually, these are some of the curatorial accomplishments so far. We've got 9 drawers of our T-ines cleaned up. Jerry, got to come down. Apiformes, we actually have a database, well, it's on Excel. We have a spreadsheet of the bees of South Dakota. That's there. The Heteroptera and the Alpinarenca have all been cleaned up and are ready to be databased. And we're in the process of working on the Orthoptera. And one of those undergraduates just went crazy in the grasshoppers. He's reorganized all that stuff really fast. Most of the collection was down in, these are curatorial levels, was down in this area 10, 15 years ago. We've been gradually working up, and we're at this point now up in the 5 and 6 categories for a variety of taxa. Rita's developed a system where we can actually track this and monitor this on a taxon by taxon basis, that's families and orders. So things are improving really fast. Now that we actually have bodies in there working and people that care. In terms of personal and technical, then hired Rita as a part-time collection manager. We've been getting in about 40 hours per week combined on part-time undergraduate hourlies. We've got a undergraduate hourly that's coming on full-time for the summer to help with the imaging and the databasing. I've already started, we got a new computer just for the collection, started using Specify 6. Students are really comfortable using Excel and Workbench, so that makes things really easy to get data put in really fast. And thanks, Chris. Invernet has given us a little breather, and I actually have something positive to tell the dean and the experiment station director now. So, okay.